In the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe calls to host US nuclear weapons. He suggested that Japan should break a long-standing taboo and engage in an active debate on nuclear weapons, including a prospective nuclear sharing program similar to that of NATO's. How do you see this statement, and what are the possibilities that Japan could mirror a similar program as NATO's on nuclear sharing?
Arijita, I would answer the part one in two capacities. The comment has to be in two capacities. Academically speaking, it is the advent of realism in Japan. And Japan's increasing dependence post World War II on the US centrality gives rise to the reluctant realism in 21st century, where three key elements drove them to think about the proliferation of the nukes. The first one is the Japan's aspiration for nuclear identity. The second is the changes in international environment. And the third is insecurity about the national power resources. And in all, I would say the global institutions thriving on the theory of constructivism in the world today and will lose a major chunk of their credibility in 2022. Now, on the second part, analytically speaking, former PM Abe's growing concern with the China's growing military power, increased anxiety about the external security threats, and continuous escalations in territorial conflicts with neighbors make him more conscious about the agility of their security umbrella. The frigid actions of global leaders in the wake of Ukraine-Russia conflict stressed many countries about their dependence on West. And also, the nuclear aspirational countries will step up their nuclear program because they see the effect of giving up nukes on the Ukraine. Now coming to the part second of your question, that PM Kishida himself dismissed for the debate on nuclear sharing option. Kishida himself is a Hiroshima native who has made a nuclear disarmament his life's effort and is particularly sensitive about the subject. Also, the major factions in the LDP, the ruling party of the Japan, still have their dependence on the old guards. It means the three non-nuclear principles that not developing, possessing, or allowing the nuclear weapons on its soil will remain in its place at least till 2025. Uh, and in my opinion, Japan will not actually explore any nuclear option, but will significantly increase their defense capability in coming decade. Although the declassified record suggests that the US already placed nuclear weapons in on Okinawa before it reverted to Japanese control in 1972. So it's a different thing there.
In another follow-up question to this, like a few developments we witnessed and we noticed in Japan's foreign policy recently vis-a-vis to Russia. And I'll say, like, putting through, sanctions and intercepting a Russian helicopter in its airspace, and also comparing Russia's Ukraine invasion with that of the World War II era, the Kuril Islands is trending at the moment and calling them both against the international law. So, do you think these events are somewhere connected?
Yes, these actions are like pearls in this string. Firstly, the sanctions laid by Japan on Russia are escalating day by day. Even 2 days earlier, the new list was on the desk. Secondly, the Japanese government officially resurrected the disputed claims on the Kuril Islands 2 days earlier, 3 days earlier, I think. The measures by the Japan on Russia will surely rise in the coming days, as it is an opportunity for them to tackle, Russia strictly after 1905. And all the conditions are in the favor of the Japan, excluding the energy dependence or share of the Japanese majors in the Russian energy firms. The Secretary General of the Upper House in Diet, Hiroshige Seko, pointed out that the ramifications of sanctions could have big impact on people's livelihood in Japan. 2 days ago, Japan banned the another batch of technological exports to Russia, including the military, semiconductors, communication equipment, sensors, radars, and even softwares. But another thing is that if Japan will take exit from Sakhalin 1 and Sakhalin 2 energy project, as I told you, the only thing where Japan is lagging is the power. His arch rival, desperate China will grope the LNG and oil at the cheaper prices. Hence, Japan will have to consider it realistically first, in my opinion. It will pose another danger in the region, as both neighbors of Japan are adversaries, come competitors to their policies, especially in trade and commerce. In the present global system, economical gains drives foreign policies of the state. But in the case of war sanctions, story is quite different. And Japan is also in the, binded in this game, as their export crunch with the Russia will find the another option in Pacific.
Another story that is building up is, of course, centered around the Korean Peninsula. And we
Hmm.
have seen that
Yeah.
construction has been spotted at North Korea's Pyongyari site, which is also a nuclear test site for the first time since 2018. So, with many speculating that the rogue nation could resume testing major weapons, how real
Hmm.
is the threat from North Korea in the Indo Pacific?
Rajita, as I already told earlier, the insufficient actions on Ukraine by NATO and EU boasts, the fear of developing countries about the security aspect. The necessary military help which was expected from Ukraine is unanswered by the Western measures, which led other countries like North Korea, Iran, etc., to again explore their nuclear options in hand. So this particular Pyongyang site is not somehow attached with that particular sentiment. As Ukraine also rested their nuclear program decade back due to the regular assurances from the nuclear countries that they will defend them. And all the nuclear tests done by the North Korea since 2006 happened in this tunnel test site, which is known as Pyongyang site, with the three visible entrances: the south, portal, east portal, and the west portal, and which were publicly blown away in front of the whole international, invited media in 2018. But the suspicions gone through with the time that this test site observed seismicity regularly from 2018 onwards, which was the sign of the large blasts in unused tunnels which were existed there. And you told in your question that it's a rogue nation. I won't believe that, because the North Korea, it is a disordered nation or a state, and North Korea is not a big threat for the Indo-Pacific region in wholesome, but for the regional insecurity, it is a starter pack, and their escalations will impact all the four East Asian countries heavily, including China, as it has to be present evidently. If any noisy action will happen in the future, it will pose them directly. It will pose China directly head on with the US and their allies, which they are ignoring from the last decade, and they are experiencing and enjoying the huge economical gains through it, and the economic growth through it. Uh, and it is very evident that no aspiring superpower accepts the direct confrontation with the another superpower. And this is the basic thing. And a buffer state is a mandatory preference in the world order between the two superpowers. So I believe North Korean threat is more problematic to China rather than South Korea and Japan.